All praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakaha Kwadash. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, where I have learned this truth and where I am still learning this truth. And also shalom to the other sincere followers of this truth. All right, so this is going to be another video in the reading of Romans, the 7th chapter. This is going to be the GNT, or the Good News Translation, of Romans, the 7th chapter. Okay. If you are just now finding this channel and only clicking on this video to get some context of why I'm reading this chapter, just go back a couple videos or a few videos, or go back one video and get the NLT. I think I explained it a little bit at the beginning of the NLT, the reason for this reading. But if you could, go back even further to the latest series before this video. It's entitled Teach Exactly What You Were Taught, with the topic being why were we made subject to vanity and sin? Okay, which I gave, or the scriptures give, the simple answer to this, which is Isaiah 55 verse 8. I'll go ahead and read that out of the Good News Translation for you right now. Okay, this is the simple, easy answer. All right. So it reads, "My thoughts, says the Lord, are not like yours, and my ways are different from yours." All right. I'm going to go ahead and read verse 9 also. It says, "As high as the heavens are above the earth, so high are my ways and thoughts above yours." So the simple answer is that we go through these things being subjected to vanity and sin because that's how the Lord willed it. The Lord wills everything. Okay? Everything that you think is simple, everything that you think is complex, everything that you think is good, everything that you think is bad. Right? It is of the Lord. Nothing happens that does not have to do. You can't exclude the Lord in anything. Okay? So, let's go ahead and get to Romans chapter 7. All right? And what this is speaking of is the condition of the battle that we are in, which is the battle with sin and vanity. All right? Which, being in these chains of darkness, which is the flesh, all right, we are going to be in this battle until we are perfected in the kingdom. All right? Until the Lord returns, we are in this battle. Now, that doesn't mean that some of us aren't waking up. All right? The Spirit of the Lord is here, and it is attaching itself or growing within the remnant that he left here to get it. Again, this was something that the Lord willed, and that is happening. This is something that the Lord spoke, and it is happening. This is something that was written, and it is happening. Again, as all of these prophecies in the scriptures have either happened or are going to happen, because these things are faithful and true. But going through these things, warring with the flesh, is going to be a battle until the end. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get into the Good News Translation of Romans, the 7th chapter. Okay? The heading above verse 1, the heading above chapter 7 of Romans in the Good News Translation is an illustration from marriage. All right? So here we go. It reads, "Certainly you will understand what I am about to say, my friends, because all of you know about the law. The law rules over people only as long as they live, only as long, your life, your entire life." All right, verse 2. A married woman, so in the spirit, this married woman, okay, if you can receive it, in the spirit, Israel. All right, the husbandman to the woman is the Lord. All right. So verse 2. which I will touch on this now. Yahweh Shai, that is the name of whom this world ignorantly calls Jesus, among other names. All right. I'm not going to go through the list because the list is not what's important. What is important is his name, the actual name, Yahweh Shai. It is not any other name. All right. And his father, right, the Almighty, his name is Yahweh. Okay, it's not God. God is a trait, and yes, it is a title. Yahweh Shai is even a God. All right. Us as the remnant, we are also gods. All right. Okay. There's an order to everything, so we're not on the level of Yahweh Shai, and he's not on the level of the Lord. All right. And which means we definitely are not on the level of the Lord. All right. Or on Yahweh Shai. Okay. There's an order to everything. Okay. So again, verse 2. A married woman, for example, is bound by the law to her husband as long as he lives. But if he dies, then she is free from the law that bound her to him. So then, if she lives with another man while her husband is alive, she will be called an adulteress. But if her husband dies, she is legally a free woman and does not commit adultery if she marries another man. Now, yes, this law is for actual women and men, okay? But like I said, in the spirit, this woman is speaking of Israel, all right? And this husbandman is speaking of the Lord, and he is alive and very well, all right, on his way back here to be married to his bride or to be joined unto us, okay? All right. If he was dead, the law would be dead. So when you say that the law is dead, you are saying that the Lord is dead. It's that simple. Okay? So verse 4 now. That is how it is with you, my friends. As far as the law is concerned, you also have died because you are a part of the body of Yahweh Shai. And now you belong to him who was raised from death in order that we might be useful in the service of God. All right. Verse 5. For when we lived according to our human nature, the sinful desires stirred up by the law were at work in our bodies, and all we did ended in death. Okay. We keep calling this, or at least I've stated on this channel a few times, that this is the boulevard of broke dreams outside of the truth. You are on the boulevard of broke dreams, the path of death. Everything outside of this leads to death. Verse 6. Now, however, we are free from the law because we died to that which once held us prisoners. No longer do we serve in the old way of a written law, but in the new way of the Spirit. So, look, we don't live to the letter of the law because we can't live to the letter of the law 100%. So you can't know that if you are guilty of breaking one law, you're guilty of breaking them all. So we can't live up to the law, but that doesn't mean the law is gone. Okay? I like how it said this in here. This is the second part of verse 6 in the Good News translation of Romans chapter 7. It says, no longer do we serve in the old way of a written law, but in the new way of the Spirit, meaning that our spirit wants to do the law 100%. And in saying that, your actions are going to change. You're going to reach and try to do these things 100%, but we can't do it 100%. People are treating this like as if we either can or can't do the law. No, we know we can't do the law, but we try to the best of our ability. There are some laws you can follow. Of quit eating pork. You can do that. All right. But the, the rulers of this earth have been so sly that you ask, can you do it? They've put everything in everything, man. They've treated this world like uh like swine's stomach. Like a swine's stomach. It eats everything. All right? And it treats this world by putting everything in everything. Okay? What else? You can do the Sabbath days to the best of your ability because the rulers have made it hard for people to do that. We end up having it, some of us end up having to work on Sabbath days. All right? And Sabbath days are not Friday to Saturday. The moon determines when the day comes in, not the day of the week. Okay? So we can strive to do some laws. All right? We can choose to be in this truth and not take heed to other things. Okay? That's something that we can do. We can, and it doesn't harm you to read about other things, to get certain knowledge on other things, but to profess those other things as true, to covet what is in these other books that go towards other gods, we can help that. Lord willing, we can help that, right? If he wants you, if you are his, all right, you will be able to do these things, okay? Some of these things, as far as the example I gave about not falling into these other beliefs, all right? Like the remnant now, okay? We know that this is the truth. We don't do any kind of sun worship. We don't worship the stars. We don't worship anything except for Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, all right? And we respect and hold this truth in reverence, okay? So there's something that we're doing that we're meant to do, all right? So the law is not dead, basically, is what I'm saying. The law is not gone. Neither is the Lord gone, okay? So now, verse 7 in the Good News Translation of chapter 7, the heading above it says law and sin, okay? So it says, shall we say then that the law itself is sinful? Of course not. But it was the law that made me know what sin is. Because again, sin is transgression of the law. What law? The law, statutes, and commandments of the Lord. All right. If the law had not said, do not desire what belongs to someone else, I would not have known such a desire. But by means of that commandment, sin found its chance to stir up all kinds of selfish desires in me. Apart from law, sin is a dead thing. I myself was once alive apart from law, but when the commandment came, sin sprang to life, and I died. And the commandment which was meant to bring life, in my case, brought death. Sin found, this is verse 11, sin found its chance, and by means of the commandment, it deceived me and killed me. So then, the law itself is holy, and the commandment is holy, right, and good. But does this mean that what is good caused my death? By no means. It was sin that did it, by using what is good. Sin brought death to me in order that its true nature as sin might be revealed. And so by means of the commandment, sin is shown to be even more terribly sinful. All right. So the laws have you know the difference between what is sin and what is not. So it has you know, it tells you what sin is. Okay? So now you know what sin is and you keep doing it, which makes what you're doing a sin. Okay? Especially because you know it now. Not that it's not a sin because you don't know it. but especially because you know it, it makes it sin. Okay? So now 14, verse 14. Uh, excuse me. Verse 14 of Romans chapter 7 in the Good News translation, and the heading above verse 14 says, the conflict in us. All right, what we have to deal with in these chains of darkness, which is the flesh. All right, and what I mean by what we have to deal with. All right, this is for the remnant of Israel. All right, the 1/3 of Israel that are going to come back and understand these things, search for these things, study these things, listen for these things, pray on these things, all right, and try to walk this path to the best of our ability. If you try to argue against this, if you try to argue that the law is dead, then you really have to consider that these things are not for you. And what is your end going to be? I mean, it does say search or seek out your own salvation with fear and trembling. That's paraphrasing, but that's a scary thing. If you are coming against this truth, right? If you are against the law, if you are against Yahweh Shai, if you are against the names, okay, if you are against this truth, if you are against the Lord's men, those are some scary. That's a scary. You all put those all on a list. Those are scary things to consider that are in your mind. Why is the Lord doing that to you? Why does He have you doing these things? You should build up your fear. You should pray that the Lord make you fear Him. All right, because right now it doesn't. When you come up against the truth and you use those points, when you're arguing against those points, you really have to consider that, man. Man, your fear should be through the roof if all those things are on a list of things that are coming out of your mouth. All right. So let me go on. This is verse 14 in Romans chapter 7 of the Good News translation. It reads, we know that the law is spiritual, but I am a mortal, sold as a slave to sin. Uh, if you don't have a strong foundation, this can twist you in a knot spiritually, right? This can put a few more locks on the spiritual club that the Lord has on you that doesn't allow you to turn. You lock you up even more if you have no understanding. On the flip side of it, if you are of the remnant and you have some kind of foundation, this is plain. This is not confusing. What I'm about to read, all right? It flows. So listen up and listen good. I'm gonna start again at verse 14. All right. Again, the heading says the conflict in us. Okay. So it reads, we know that the law is spiritual, but I am a mortal, sold as a slave to sin. I do not understand what I do, for I don't do what I would like to do, but instead I do what I hate. Since what I do is what I don't want to do, this shows that I agree that the law is right. So I am not really the one who does this thing. Rather, it is the sin that lives in me. Verse 18, I know that good does not live in me, that is, in my human nature. For even though the desire to do good is in me, I am not able to do it. I don't do the good I want to do. Instead, I do the evil that I do not want to do. If I do what I don't want to do, this means that I am no longer the one who does it. Instead, it is the sin that lives in me. Verse 21. So I find that this law is at work. When I want to do what is good, what is evil is the only choice I have. My inner being delights in the law of God, but I see a different law at work in my body, a law that fights against the law which my mind approves of. It makes me a prisoner to the law of sin, which is at work in my body. Verse 24. What an unhappy man I am! Who will rescue me from this body that is taking me to death? Thanks be to Yahweh, who does this through our Lord Yahweh Shai Hamashiach. This then is my condition. On my own, I can serve Yahweh's law only with my mind, while my human nature serves the law of sin. And this is what the Rakah Kodash, the Holy Spirit, um, is sent down here for us to see the path through these things, and seeing that this is a chain of darkness, all right, and that being in the Spirit um, allows us, being more so in the Spirit than we are in the flesh, allows us to do the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of our ability, all right, is comforting, okay? So this is the condition of the battle, and it will be until the day, until the Lord's day, all right, or until um, your whole life, like I said at the beginning of this, all right, all right. But this goes to show, this goes to the point of um, why are we subject to vanity and sin? This chain of darkness is a part of that road, all right. So with that, I'd like to say all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakaha Kodash. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and bishops of Great Millstone, where I've learned this truth, and where I'm still learning this truth. And also shalom to the other sincere followers of this truth. Shalom.